You are 5 years old. You get an allowance, $1, every week. Your mom gives it to you on Sunday. You hold it. It feels like everything. You spend it by Tuesday. By Wednesday, it is gone. You don't know where it went. You just know it's gone. That feeling, that exact feeling, never fully leaves, no matter how big the number gets. That is the whole video. You are 22. Your salary is $32,000 a year. Here's what that means explained like you are 5. Imagine you have 100 pieces of candy. Before you can even touch them, someone takes 28. That is taxes. Now you have 72. Rent takes 35 of those every single month. Before food, before anything. You have 37 pieces left. Your car needs gas. That takes 8. Groceries take 12. Phone bill takes 4. You have 13 pieces left. Then something breaks. Something always breaks at this level. And those 13 pieces disappear before the month ends. That is $32,000. It is not a life of luxury. It is a math problem with very little room for error. You eat the same meals on rotation, not because you are lazy, because variety costs money you do not have. This salary teaches you something that no other salary will ever teach you again. It teaches you exactly what things cost, not approximately, exactly. You will carry that knowledge forever, even when the number gets bigger. You get a raise. You are now making $48,000. Back to the candy analogy, because you are 5, and this is how we are doing it. You now have 100 pieces of candy. Taxes take 26 this time. You have 74. Rent takes 30. You upgraded slightly. You have 44 left. Here's where something strange happens. You have more candy than before, but somehow it still disappears. You got a better apartment. You got a slightly nicer car. You started buying the name brand cereal. Each thing felt small. Together they ate the extra candy before you noticed. Economists have a name for this. You do not need the name. You just need to know the trap exists. More candy came in. The spending quietly grew to match it. You feel almost exactly the same as you did at $32,000. That is the trap. You are 27. Salary is $60,000. Candy time again. You have 100 pieces. Taxes take 24. You have 76. Here's the new thing at this level that did not exist before. You have enough candy left at the end of the month that you could put some in a jar and not feel it immediately. Not a lot, maybe 8 or 10 pieces, but the jar is possible now. The jar is the whole game, because the pieces in the jar do something the pieces you spend cannot do. They make more pieces while you are sleeping, while you are at work, while you are not watching. That is called compounding. Explain like you are 5, it is this. You put 10 pieces of candy in a jar. The jar gives you 1 extra piece just for leaving them there. Next month, you have 11 pieces working for you instead of 10. The month after, 12. You did nothing. The jar did the work. Most people at $60,000 never start the jar. They spend all 76 pieces and wonder later why nothing is there. You are 31, $85,000. The candy picture looks different now. You have 100 pieces. Taxes take 23. You have 77. Your jar has been running for a few years. It now has candy in it you did not personally put there. The jar made some of it on its own. That feels strange the first time you notice it. Good strange. The pressure at this level is different from $32,000. At $32,000, the pressure was survival. At $85,000, the pressure is quieter. It lives in the gap between what you could spend and what you should spend. Those are two very different numbers, and nobody tells you which one to follow. Here's the 5-year-old version of what that gap feels like. Imagine you are at a birthday party. There is a table full of candy. You are allowed to take as much as you want, but you know that whatever you take now means less in the jar later, and the jar is getting interesting. Most kids grab the candy. That is not a character flaw. That is just what it feels like when the table is full and the jar is in another room. You are 36. $110,000. You have more candy than most people you grew up with. Here's what nobody prepares you for at this level. The candy feels normal now. $110,000 felt like an enormous number when you were 22. Now it is Tuesday. Your brain adjusted. The number that used to feel like a destination is now just where you live. This is called hedonic adaptation. Explain like you are 5, it is this. Remember the first time you had chocolate ice cream. It was incredible. Now imagine eating it every single day. By day 40, it is just dessert. Your brain does this with salary. The number stops feeling big, so you spend like it is normal, because it is normal, and the jar gets neglected because the urgency is gone. The people quietly building at this level treat the jar like a bill, not optional, not when there is extra. First, before the candy hits the table, Some goes directly into the jar. They never see it. They never miss it. The jar grows without the pain of deciding every month. You are 41, $145,000. Your jar is not small anymore. It has been running for years. Some of what is in it you put there. A lot of what is in it the jar made by itself. At this level, something shifts in how the jar works. Explain like you are 5. Remember how 10 pieces became 11. Then, 11 became 12. Now imagine you have 300 pieces in the jar. The jar gives you 21 pieces just for leaving them there. You only put in 15 that month. The jar gave you more than you gave it. That is the moment the machine starts running faster than you do. Most people never get here because they emptied the jar somewhere in their 30s when something expensive happened. The people who are here protected the jar through the expensive things. That protection is the whole strategy. You are 46, $180,000. The jar is doing serious work now. Explain like you are 5, it is this. You built a small candy factory when you were 27. It was tiny at first, 1 extra piece a month. You almost shut it down a few times when rent was hard. You didn't. Now the factory runs 24 hours. It makes candy while you eat dinner, while you sleep, while you are on vacation. You did not build a bigger factory. You just never shut the original one down. That is the entire secret of this level. Here's what else changes at $180,000 that nobody talks about. The question changes. At $32,000, the question was, how do I make it to the end of the month? At $85,000, it was, how do I get ahead? At $180,000, the question becomes, what is the candy actually for? That question sounds simple. It is not simple. The people who never ask it spend this entire level buying things that look like answers. They are not answers. They are just more spending dressed up as a rival. You are 51, $220,000. Your candy factory has been running for almost 30 years. It no longer needs you to watch it every day. You built the system young enough that the system is bigger than your input now. Explain like you are 5, it is this. Remember that first dollar on Sunday. You held it. It felt like everything. You spent it by Tuesday. The lesson from that dollar is not that money disappears. The lesson is that money does what you decide to do with it. At 5, you had no system. The dollar left. At 51, you have the system. The candy stays. Most of it. Then it makes more. This whole video was never about the salary. The salary is just the number of pieces you start with each month. The life is determined by what you do with them. 2 people, same candy. One has a factory running quietly in another room. One spent every piece the day it arrived. By the end, they have lived completely different lives. Not because the world was unfair, because the jar either exists or it doesn't. Somewhere tonight, a 22-year-old is holding their first paycheck. They are doing the math. The number is smaller than expected. They think the problem is the number. They are not wrong, but they are not entirely right either. Start the jar, even when it feels pointless, especially when it feels pointless. The factory builds itself, but only if you let it run.